right, well, bunch of technical difficulties. But we're here. I think. Finally. Jeez, what a mess. All my settings just decided to just not work all of a sudden. I think it works now, though. It's the most frustrating thing when you have it. Like, you think you have it all set up, but you're like, I'm gonna sit down and do this, and it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Well, jeez. That took way too much to get set up. My gosh. I would have been on like 30 minutes ago, but that was ridiculous. Anyway, catching up on the news, press briefing, at Caroline Leavitt, White House, and then JD Vance, he had some remarks and whatnot, gave a little speech. So we're going to catch up on that. There's a lot of other stuff, but that's what I've planned so far. So what's going on, Mario? Anyway, let's hop in here, because I'm like, man, I swear I've been sitting here 20 minutes trying to get this thing started, and I'm like, why is it not working? It's like, your stream settings are not set up correctly. Like, what are you talking about? I haven't changed anything.
By addressing the horrific shooting that took place yesterday at the Annunciation Catholic Church Jim? In Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh yeah, that's right. And that's kind of where we left off last stream too, was we were catching up on that shooting, but this is kind of right after it happened, so there wasn't like too much info out.
Where a deranged shooter opened fire during morning mass, killing an innocent 8-year-old and 10-year-old. 14 other children and 3 adults were also injured.
Damn, it really sucks to start the stream on such a heavy note. Hopefully everybody's having a good day, a good morning, and whatnot, whatever time it is where you are. But yeah, we're just hopping right into, like, I guess some heavy stuff here. What are you going to listen to this Trump Muppet lie about today? Well, I don't know. It looks like we're starting out with the shooting in the church there, school. So we're going to start there and see what else she has. But appreciate you, not Chad, for coming through.
During this horrible tragedy. This was the first morning mass of the school year for these beautiful, innocent children. And this sacred religious service was desecrated by an evil monster. We are all eternally grateful to the heroic law enforcement officers and first responders whose courage and swift response aided all of those impacted by this horrible tragedy. As Director Kash Patel confirmed yesterday, the FBI is currently investigating this shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. President Trump signed a proclamation yesterday following his call with the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-mast. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join all of us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. The White House and the FBI will continue to provide further updates as they become available. I also have a quick scheduling announcement for you today. The President will travel to New York City on September 22nd to address the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, September 23rd. On another matter, as Americans make their Labor Day weekend travel plans, they will be able to enjoy 5-year low gas prices thanks to President Trump fully unleashing American energy dominance. President Trump ended Joe Biden's Green New Scam policies and is delivering on his promise to make America affordable again. These savings at the pump are giving everyday American families more room in their budgets at the end of each month, which is the exact opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. And as we commemorate Labor Day this year, we finally have a president who fights and delivers for the American worker every single day. President Trump believes that American workers are the heart and soul of our economy and our national identity, which is why he's championed an agenda that puts them first always. For decades, the hardworking men and women of our country who built the greatest nation in world history were sold out by selfish, greedy, short-sighted globalists who put our country on a path to economic and cultural ruin. They hollowed out our factories and towns and betrayed the American working class by shipping jobs overseas and importing millions of low-wage migrants to replace American workers. Under President Trump, this national disgrace is over. American workers are, once again, being put at the center of national trade policy, and the dignity of American labor is being defended. As a result, President Trump has already brought in nearly $10 trillion in new private and foreign investments so that the top businesses in the world can create high-paying jobs in America and hire American workers to fill them. In fact, since President Trump took office, the economy has added more than 500,000 new jobs to the workforce. In a stark reversal from the Biden administration, all of that job creation has been driven by private sector growth, and all employment gains have gone to native-born Americans. Wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in the past 60 years. And the average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year alone. Thanks to the largest middle tax cuts ever signed into law by President Trump, with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, Americans in all 50 states will keep more of their hard-earned money. The average American taxpayer will see a tax cut of nearly $4,000 because of these pro-growth provisions, according to analysis from the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation. In other news, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to restore law and order to our nation's capital. Since President Trump's intervention, there have been more than 1,283 arrests right here in the District of Columbia. Total crime in D.C. is down 19%, and violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings in the district are down 67%. Homicides are down 57%. Robberies are down 40%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 32%. And assaults with dangerous weapons are down 23%. And property crime is down 18%. These numbers prove the president's bold actions to make D.C. safe and beautiful again are working, just like he said they would. And that's why on Monday, the president took additional action to sign an executive order taking steps to ensure that cashless bail in Washington, D.C. is eliminated. For too long, D.C.'s reckless cashless bail policies have allowed dangerous criminals to be quickly released, which endangers everyone who lives in and visits our wonderful capital. No cash bail has also foolishly forced law enforcement to repeatedly arrest the same offenders over and over again, only for them to be released back into our nation's capital. This is the definition of insanity, and the president is seeking to end it. He also signed a separate executive order addressing the crime emergency in D.C. by instructing the National Park Service to hire additional United States Park Police officers to support public safety, and directing the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. to hire additional prosecutors to focus solely on violent and property crimes. So while liberal Democrats across the country continue to double down on their failed soft-on-crime approach, the American people, including local D.C. leadership, business owners, and residents, are rallying behind President Trump's crime crackdown. According to new polling, 81% of Americans say crime is a major problem in large cities across the country. And a clear majority of Americans believe the president's actions are justified and necessary to reduce crime in these cities. Indu Bhatia, who runs a liquor store a half mile from the White House here just down the street, is one of those Americans who are grateful for President Trump's public safety push. Indu recently told the New York Post that her store was robbed so many times that they had to spend exorbitant sums of money on security, jeopardizing her family's financial future. But thanks to President Trump's strong action, Indu said, quote, "All of my employees, including me, we feel much safer, and even our customers feel really happy when they walk into our store." And just yesterday, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser credited President Trump for surging federal law enforcement personnel and said neighborhoods, quote, "feel and are much safer." We thank Mayor Bowser for her cooperation and her willingness to help us make D.C. safe and beautiful. This entire effort has vindicated what President Trump and law and order advocates have been saying for years. And this is our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The President Trump approach of upholding law and order by letting our brave men and women in blue actually do their jobs to aggressively fight crime works. In just a few weeks, President Trump has done more for DC residents than Democrats did in 50 years. And this can be replicated in other crime-ridden cities across the nation. As President Trump has said, all of these elected officials in charge have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the president and the federal government's help. President Trump doesn't care if they are a Republican or a Democrat leader. He wants Americans to be safe and for every law-abiding American citizen across the country to be able to thrive in their city and in their community. With that, I'll take questions.
New poll in the chat. Seems like there's a nice mix of people. So is Trump doing a good job? Yes or no? See what kind of mix we got in here today.
Here in our new media.
We generally keep a pretty good split.
Today we have social media influencer, content creator, Brandon Tatum. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you kick us off?
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of everybody that follow me, the millions of people that follow me, I want to say thank you for making the sacrifice and dealing with some of the most disingenuous people on planet Earth at times. I have two questions. The first question is associated with the shooting.
Oh wait, who is this? I think I've seen his YouTube channel, if I'm not mistaken.
Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. Social media influencer, content creator, Brandon Tatum. Brandon,
oh yeah, I've seen him.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you kick us off?
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of everybody that follow me, the millions of people that follow me, I want to say thank you for making the sacrifice and dealing with some of the most disingenuous people on planet Earth at times. I have two questions. The first question is associated with the shooting that occurred the other day. And I want to ask the question of, we know that it's not a gun thing. Any rational person knows it's not a gun thing. We know it's a mental health issue. So I want to know from you, what is President Trump and the White House going to do to address mental health issues around the country associated with these shootings? And the second thing is Chicago. You know, anybody with, and I say, with a connected brainstem knows that Chicago's crime is out of control. And young black men are getting killed, laying dead in the middle of the streets every single day in Chicago. No president has addressed any of these issues. And so what is the White House going to do to address issues in their capacity to deal with the conflict and violence in Chicago?
Sure. Well, to your first question about this shooting in Minnesota, right now, the administration is focused on helping the people of Minnesota. It's been less than a day, of course, since this tragedy happened. We have federal law enforcement on the ground assisting local law enforcement. This investigation is ongoing. There's still a lot of facts to understand about these circumstances, and so we're going to continue to do that. As for Chicago and cracking down on crime, it is a priority of this administration to ensure that American cities are safe again, and I'm so glad that you brought up the crime in Chicago, because we've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that there's nothing wrong with Chicago. It's a great place to live. There's no crime there. He doesn't need President Trump's help. Well, I think the residents of Chicago beg to differ, and the statistics beg to differ. And I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% 6% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. And Chicago has also, just like DC, come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will. Gabe, and thanks for being here, Brandon. Gabe.
Caroline, thank you so much. First on the firing of the CDC director. First,
Sure.
who will replace her? And then also, overnight, the White House said that she did not align with the president's agenda. Dr. Menard's attorneys say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. What specifically did she do wrong?
Look, what I will say about this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't, so the president fired her, which he has every right to do. It was President Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not aligned with his mission. A new replacement will be announced by either the president or the secretary very soon, and the president and Secretary Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC, and we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission.
And briefly on another topic, alligator Alcatraz. Last week, a judge on an environmental concerns lawsuit said that the administration had 60 days to wind down operations there, state officials did. Now, the administration has not been shy in fighting back against what it calls activist judges, but why is it backing down this time?
We're not backing down. We've always said that we are going to continue to fight in the court of law for what's right, because we know that what this administration is doing with respect to all policy, but also immigration policy, is above the books, and we're abiding by our nation's immigration laws. And we think it's despicable that an activist judge has inserted themselves in this migrant detention facility to the point where DHS is now having to relocate these illegal immigrants to other detention facilities around the country. That is an unnecessary burden on the Department of Homeland Security and these agents who should be removing these criminals from our community. That's what the American people elected this president to do. So we've always maintained, Gabe, we're going to comply with court orders, but we're also going to fight back on them on the merits of the law. And DHS is in compliance while we disagree with this decision, and we'll continue to fight it in court. Let's go to...
Hey,
Go ahead.
Thanks so much. So just following up on the CDC firing.
Sure.
Are you anticipating other changes there at CDC in addition to that firing? And is the administration going through in a very sort of organized fashion? Is there a task force that's going through high-level appointees to see who is or isn't aligned with the mission? Like, should we expect more changes?
Not to my knowledge. I understand there were a few other individuals who resigned after the firing of Ms. Monarez. One of those individuals wrote in his departure statement that he
Not Chad is
identifies
catching
pregnant
on.
women as pregnant people. So that's not someone who we want in this administration anyway. So if people are not aligned with the president's vision and the secretary's vision to make our country healthy again, then we will gladly show them the door.
Caroline, can I just follow up on...
Go to the back.
Thank you, Caroline.
Go behind you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. The military deployment that President Trump has sent to the Caribbean Sea close to the shores with Venezuela is massive. It's much more that is needed to simply counter narcotics operations. Is President Trump considering launching military strikes to military installments or facilities in Venezuelan soil?
I won't get ahead of the president with respect to any military action or questions about that ever. But what I will tell you is that many Caribbean nations and many nations in the region have applauded the administration's counter-drug operations and efforts, and the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. And as I've said from this podium before, the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. Maduro is not a legitimate president.
Rob Bobby, that is wild. That is wild. Yo, is Trump doing a good job? We got a poll going. It looks like 54% say yes. Well, it's shifting quite a bit, but 54% say yes, 46% say no. So a nice split in here. I was looking at the Chicago crime stats. It does seem like they're pretty bad, down overall in like the last 20 years. I don't think it's the best argument to make. Well, there's cities that are way worse off because, I mean, if he starts looking at those cities, I think people are going to be mad as well. So there was a point it was at like 900 murders a year, which is kind of insane. That's like almost 3 murders a day, which is pretty incredible. It's much lower than that now. I think as of 2025, there's like 56 murders from the story I was reading. So, I mean, maybe it'll be 500 by the end of the year. Still seems like a lot of murders, but I mean, it's a big city, I suppose.
He is a fugitive head of this drug cartel. He has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into our country, and it is the utmost responsibility of this president and this administration to prevent the illicit flow of drugs into our country and to protect citizens from those deadly poisons. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
My second question for you is that there have been media outlets who have glazed over the fact that the shooter was confused in their gender identity. Does the administration believe that this element needs to be investigated in the shooting?
All of the elements are being investigated in the shooting, absolutely. Which is why part of the reason the FBI director came out and immediately confirmed that facet of the investigation. John.
Thanks a lot, Carolyn. 2 questions on 2 separate issues. First of all, the drone and missile strikes that took place overnight in Ukraine. General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these 2 countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised. These are 2 countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August. So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end. And that's why he's worked harder than anyone to end this war, which would have never started if he were president. But perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these 2 countries need it to end and want it to end, must want it to end as well. And I think the president will make some additional statements on this later.
My second question has to do with,
Carrie.
I just had one more, if I may. It has to do with the president's intention to remove Lisa Cook as a member of the Federal Reserve Board. He is going or acting upon allegations that have been made by Trump administration official Bill Pulte. These are just allegations. She hasn't been convicted yet of any crime. Is the administration opposed to allowing Ms. Cook to have due process, to challenge what has been alleged against her?
I believe she is challenging it. I believe she just filed a lawsuit today, and Mr. Pulte has deferred those allegations over to the Department of Justice to investigate them. What I will say is that you had these mortgage receipts very clearly shown to the president, and he has the cause that he needs to fire this individual. He laid it out in the letter that he provided to her and to the public as well. And so we'll continue to fight this battle. Carrie.
Hi, Caroline. So the president just announced that he wants to have a convention right before the midterms next year. The GNC has countered that they too want to have a convention right before the midterms as well. What's the White House's response to that? And can you give us just a little bit of a hint or a tease here as to how the president envisions a convention for the midterms?
Look, the president put out a statement on this earlier today. I'll let him speak further on the plans that he envisions, but I think he's very proud of the accomplishments and the achievements of his administration, as he should be. The most secure border in United States history, a crackdown on crime here in our nation's capital, an attack or a reversal of the attack on our energy industry from the previous administration. As I just pointed out to you, gas prices today, this Labor Day, are the lowest they've been since Labor Day in 2020. Our economy is bringing in trillions of dollars in revenue from all over the world again. So there's so much for Republicans and for the president and for Americans across the country to be proud of.
How's gas where you guys are at? I want to say gas is around $3 here. So overall, like over the last 6 months, I'd say it's down. I've heard them mention $2 in places, but I'm like, that's insane. No way.
And I think the president wants to see that celebrated. But for any further details on this as they come, we'll provide you with them. Iris.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions on the shooting. What's the administration's message to some concerned parents across the country who might be now worried about their kids' safety in light of the latest incident?
We completely and totally understand the concerns of parents across the country. This tragedy it's heartbreaking. As a parent myself, there are no words to describe just the heartbreak that these families must be enduring, which is why the president and the first lady have encouraged everyone to continue to pray for these families and these victims. And it's why this administration is focused on removing public safety threats from our communities. And in fact, I can share with all of you that last night in Washington, D.C., when arrests were being made, there was an arrest of a juvenile right here in D.C. in Ward 7 for threats to kidnap and injure, receiving...
I'm seeing like 319, 315 in Pennsylvania, Florida, 319. Some people are saying it's going up where they're at or it's higher. Let's see, 289 in Houston, $4 here. Where you at? Like, is that like the West Coast? I'm curious. 299, 309. Okay, you said it was 269 at the beginning of the year. Now it's 299 most of the time. So it's gone up for you. 329 in Cincinnati. 270. Yeah, Florida seems like it's cheaper. Oh, 419 in Oregon. Okay.
Stolen property, possession of a large capacity feeding device, unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. A search warrant was executed, 7 firearms were recovered, and the juvenile was arrested after an investigation was initiated based on social media posts allegedly threatening violence towards a school. So this was a juvenile who was a risk to not just himself, but the community here in Washington, and he was removed from the community last night because of the law enforcement efforts of this administration. And I would also point to the statement of our wonderful First Lady that she released yesterday. She wrote, "The tragic mass killing in Minnesota illuminates the need for preemptive intervention and identifying
$6.88 a gallon? What are you talking about?
School shooters. Early warning signs are often evident, with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to their actions. We encourage all Americans, as the old saying goes, if you see something, say something. If you see warning signs or threats, report it to law enforcement. This administration, federal law enforcement, will take those reports and those threats seriously. They will be treated as a law enforcement emergency, and we will act accordingly."
And on the First Lady's statement, would the administration consider ramping up resources on these fronts to parents and schools across the country to help them look into these signs and prevent more tragedies?
It's a very fair question, Iris. As for any potential future policy decisions or funding questions, it's just been over 24 hours since this tragedy occurred. Right now, we're focused on the FBI and their investigation and uncovering all the facts, and we'll leave those very important policy discussions to another day.
Thank you, Caroline.
Go ahead. Megan.
I had a question about the Lisa Cook lawsuit that you mentioned. Does the president plan to wait until that lawsuit is resolved to appoint a replacement?
I see.
I will leave that to the president to make that decision in that announcement himself. Brian?
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions. Bouncing off the CDC, situation at CDC, I'm curious if administration officials are pushing back on the president's agenda, privately, publicly, however, should they fear to lose their jobs going forward?
Look, I think if you're doing your job well, and if you are executing on the vision and the promises that the president made to the public who elected him back to this office, then you should have no fear about your job. Just do your job. That's what this president wants to see. He wants to see people solving problems. He wants to see the people who have the privilege of serving the American taxpayer and the federal government abiding by the wishes of the American taxpayers who overwhelmingly reelected him in this cabinet to make America great again, or in this case, make America healthy again.
On the Intel deal, where the U.S. got a stake in that company, there's two things I want to ask about that. The first is, what did the U.S. get back in return for that deal? And the second thing is, what are the future plans for giving any form of money to another company? It could be through the CHIPS Act, like this deal, or some other form of funds. What are the plans there by this White House administration?
Well, look, as you know, Brian, very well, because you cover it often, the Intel deal is still being ironed out by the Department of Commerce. The T's are still being crossed, the I's are still being dotted. It's very much still under discussion. But the president's thinking, I can share with you, is certainly to ensure that the United States government is making our country wealthy again and is benefiting from some of these deals. And it's a creative solution. I know it's outside the box thinking, which is uncommon in this city, but it's something that he proposed and something that the Secretary of Commerce is working on putting into action. Mary.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a couple questions on the shooting yesterday. The first one, this is the second shooting involving a trans-identifying shooter who specifically targeted Christians and Catholic kids. What kind of consequences do the gender-affirming therapists, doctors, or even the parents of these shooters face after these types of shootings?
Well, as for the parents and potential therapists in this case, again, all of that is still currently being investigated by the FBI.
It's tough. I keep seeing people mention, oh, they need to look into the parents. They need to look into the parents. But if I'm not mistaken, the shooter was 23 years old. So, I mean, to what extent do you look into the parents? Now, some people say, well, they transitioned when they were 16. So, the parents should be looked at for that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I know the Secretary of Health and Human Services this morning said that HHS is investigating perhaps links between some of these drugs and these prescription drugs that some of these minors may be taking and an increase in violence. And obviously we have mental health problems in this country that this administration and Secretary Kennedy will continue to speak out about and the work that we're doing to solve it.
Thank you. And just to follow up, I've seen a lot of calls for action, among these lawmakers saying that we shouldn't just be praying. One that I've seen on the right, actually, is calls for the FBI to institute a new class of domestic terrorism that involves trans ideology. Is that something that the administration would support?
I would have to check with the appropriate people on that.
Daniel. Thank you, Caroline. We saw some new revised economic data come out today showing the U.S. economy moved at a 3.3% clip, largely buoyed by a surge in capex. What's the White House reaction to this, and is this sort of the president's vision beginning to come to life after the Big Beautiful Bill was passed in July?
Yes, I mean, look, we did say that once the Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law, we're going to see the effects of this massive pro-growth piece of legislation. As I laid out for you as we head into the Labor Day weekend, there's many positive economic indicators that the American people can be hopeful about. But don't forget, we are reversing 4 years of reckless spending from the previous administration, of slamming regulations down the throats of American business owners and consumers across the country. But the administration is working very hard to unravel all of that and to ensure that small business owners and workers are thriving and that they have more money in.
My point to that was, if they're 23, there's some people saying that the parents should be looked at, they should be held liable or something. And I'm like, well, why is it the parents' fault at this point? Like, if somebody's 30 years old and they go and murder somebody, you're not going to go to the parents and be like, okay, you have to answer for this. It doesn't really make sense. At a certain point, you kind of cut them loose and, what they do is on them, right?
in their own pockets to spend. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caroline. Back on the CDC, there was reporting that some of the initial problems between RFK and the CDC director stemmed from miscommunications or differences on vaccine policy. So I wonder if you could just say whether or not the president believes that the COVID vaccine should be available to and covered by insurance for all Americans, regardless of age and pre-existing conditions.
What I will tell you is that the FDA recently revoked the emergency use authorizations for 3 COVID vaccinations while simultaneously greenlighting 4 new COVID-19 vaccines with 2025 and 2026 formulas. The reason for the revocation of that emergency use authorization is because obviously the COVID pandemic and the public health emergency is over. But just to correct the record, because there's been a lot of misinformation on this, the FDA's decision does not affect the availability of COVID vaccines for Americans who want them. We believe in individual choice. That's a promise both the president and the secretary have made, and it's a promise they have now delivered on.
Question, if I could, Caroline. Second question, if I could. Sorry. I wonder if you could answer why the president hasn't acknowledged the shooting at CDC headquarters that took place earlier in August, where a police officer was killed, and it was reported that the motivation for the shooting was somebody who was really unhappy with the effects of the COVID vaccine.
Really?
Absolutely, we're very
I did not hear about that one.
much aware of that shooting. The Secretary of Health and Human Services put out a statement immediately. He was in touch with the CDC, and he actually traveled to Georgia to assess the situation and to mourn with the people who work in that building there. So, go ahead.
With respect to Labor Day, one of the most underrepresented groups right now are police officers. 30,000 police officers short in America right now. To Brandon's question, 1,300 short in Chicago, 3,000 short in New York, 500 short here in Washington, D.C. What can the White House, what can the President do to help recruitment of police officers? You've done well with the military and Border Patrol. What can be done to get more police officers on the streets of America?
Well, the president has certainly been very successful in recruiting federal law enforcement. If you look at the ICE recruitment campaign that was led by he and our Secretary of Homeland Security, we've seen more than, I believe, 130,000 applicants to join ICE, which is just amazing. There's more applicants now than there are jobs to fill, and we're very grateful for that. Clearly, Americans want to serve their communities. They just need a leader who encourages them to do so. So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control. The President wants to allow law enforcement, whether it's state, local, federal, to do their jobs, to arrest criminals, to...
All right, Dirty, you gotta calm down. Now I gotta look at your moderation here. What are you doing timing everybody out? Oh my God, yo, Dirty, I'm about to time you out. What are we doing here? You're timing out anybody that mentions Epstein or the files. What are you doing? What are you doing? See, this is why I have to have a balanced moderation team, okay? Because otherwise, they go crazy. All right, I think we're going to have to time out Dirty. Ugh, man, why do you make me have to do this?
Put them behind bars and to remove public safety threats from American communities. He'll continue to do that. Thank you, guys.
Oh, shit. All right, man. Before I can even dig into that, because y'all are going crazy in the chat. What the hell? I'm looking through the chats, Dirty. I don't know if it's just spammers, man.
Wisconsin, it's great to be here. We have a great looking crowd here. Thank you all. It's the best looking group of welders.
You're like, all they have is the Epstein, so I'm gonna ban anybody that mentions Epstein. Oh my God.
Steel men and women I've seen in my entire life, I think. This is a sharp crew. Now, everybody behind me, I was told, volunteered to be there, and so you guys have to clap and cheer at everything that I say, and if not, we're gonna have to kick you the hell out of here. And a couple of them actually, and I'm not gonna call them out by name, but they were selected because they're some of the hardest working and best working people in this facility. And we just want to say we're proud of you guys, proud of what you do, and proud that the tradition of Wisconsin craftsmanship lives on in this great facility right here today. Now, before we get started here, and I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill, I want to give a few notes of appreciation and gratitude. So,
I am seeing some of the
This is
spam.
probably the third or fourth time I've been to La Crosse, Wisconsin. I came here
Oh my
live
God, Dirty
during the campaign.
Tilly,
It was
what?
always great to be here. And I joked that you all would get sick of me, but I would come back as Vice President of the United States, and I'm proud that I got to keep that promise thanks to you.
Oh my gosh.
So I want to thank Paul Bagnevsky. Paul, thank you so much. I got it A minus maybe on that pronunciation. He is the president and CEO of this incredible facility. We're so thankful.
Dirty, I don't know what you're doing. You're going mad, man. I had to time you out. This is ridiculous.
To be here. I want to thank Jake Koshiol and the rest of the Tough Job team for giving us such a warm welcome here in Wisconsin. I also want to thank, and you heard Doug Burgum, our great Secretary of the Interior. How good of a job is Doug Burgum doing as Secretary of the Interior? Doug, thank you. Doug is doing a great job, but you heard him give a shout out, and I'm going to give another shout out to the great Representative Derek Van Orden. Thank you.
Bro, dude, oh my gosh, don't make me. I swear. High speed, low drag.
Derek, please stand up. Give it up for this guy. He works harder. He works harder than anybody in Congress. He works so hard that he lost most of his hair, in fact, over his time in Congress. I'm sorry about that. I had to poke a little fun at my good friend Derek. But, you know, there are so many people who just show up in Washington. They go along to get along. They cast a vote or don't, but don't really do much else. Derek is fighting every single day for the people of this district. You should be proud of him, because I certainly am. Thank you, Derek. And I guess we got the senior class from Luther High School. Where are all the Luther High School students? Where are you all at? Thank you all. Now, have you all started school yet, or are you playing hooky today? You have? Okay, good. Well, I'm glad the Vice President coming to town got you guys out of school a little bit. But let's talk about the future, because these kids are the future. We want to make sure that they have a prosperous American future to grow up in. And let me take you back a little bit to where I grew up in Middletown, Ohio, southwestern Ohio, where my papaw, and the reason I love the welders in particular is my papaw for 42 years was a union welder at a place called Armco Steel. And when I was growing up, Armco Steel had shed about 80% of the workforce that it had employed when my papaw was working there during its heyday. And unfortunately, it was one of the lucky ones, because a lot of the steel mills lost about 80% of their workforce. A lot of the steel mills didn't exist at all. And I think that what happened is that for those of us who grew up in those factory towns, we were so used to seeing those proud, big, beautiful factories, seeing the night sky lit up with that furnace. We were proud of what our parents and our grandparents made every single day. And of course, they were proud to earn the kind of a job that enabled them to provide us a good life. And what happened? Thanks to a generation of failed politicians and stupid decisions, those factories closed down one.
You think it's going to be Vance 2028? Do you think Elon Musk will endorse him? Or do you think Elon's going to endorse his own candidate? And then who do the Democrats run? Newsom?
One by one by one, and many of those proud towns that made us who we are, ladies and gentlemen, those proud towns became ghost towns. Well, not anymore. What the President of the United States was elected on a promise to do was to bring back American manufacturing, to bring back American craftsmanship, and that is exactly what President Donald Trump is doing every.
What about Tulsi? What, like J.D. Vance Tulsi? I'm confused as to why the Democrats never supported Tulsi Gabbard when she was on their side. It really threw me off. I thought she would do really good if she ran as president, or like if they endorsed her.
Every single day in Washington. How nice is it to have a president who, instead of rewarding companies for shipping your jobs overseas, rewards companies for building factories right here in the United States of America? How nice is it to have a president of the United States who, instead of raising your taxes, is cutting your taxes by historic margins every single day, as we just did? For years, American leaders would ask you to work overtime, would ask you to spend even more time away from your family, and every hour that you spend at the job, they would reach further and further into your pocket. How nice is it to have a president of the United States who cut taxes on overtime, because we believe that if you spend an extra hour at work, the government ought to keep its hands the hell out of your pocket. Is that right? We know about 5%, about 1 in 20 Wisconsin workers rely on tips to bring home the bacon for themselves and their families. How nice is it to have a president of the United States and Republican majorities in Congress that cut taxes on tips instead of forcing our waitresses and service professionals to deal with the IRS. We ought to make it easier for folks to get by, which is exactly what we did when we cut taxes on tips, and Wisconsin families are going to be the beneficiaries. What the working families tax cuts did is very simple, ladies and gentlemen. It let you keep more money in your pocket. It rewarded you for building a business or working at a business right here in the United States of America. It makes it easy for you to take home more of your hard-earned pay, and it makes it easier. If you're an American manufacturer or an American business, it makes it easier for you to build your facility or expand your facility right here in the United States of America. I happen to believe that it's the dumbest decision we made as a country to reward foreign companies with putting stuff overseas instead of right here in places like Wisconsin. Well, now we have a different president with a different attitude. If you're building in the United States of America, if you're working in the United States of America, if you're trying to earn
Tony,
a living right
it sucks.
Here at home, we are going to...
You know that's also dirty money, right? Those are both dirty money. Sorry, dirty money. I tried. I gave you a chance.
Fight for you every single day.
His other account's only banned for like 10 minutes or something, or silenced for 10 minutes. He'll be okay.
Build crap overseas and try to undercut the wages of American workers, you're going to pay a big fat tariff before you bring it back in to the United States of America. Now, I was talking with a Fox News host earlier, and I'm going to embarrass him a little bit. I'm going to make him stand up and be recognized. You guys know Will Kane. Will, a lot of us watch his show. He's doing a good job. You know, what I told Will earlier is that all these problems are interconnected. Why is it that we allowed these Mexican drug cartels to bring this poisonous fentanyl into our communities? Why is it that so many people lost hope and started taking that fentanyl? Why is it that we had a government that seemed to care more about illegal immigrants than they did about their own citizens? It's all connected, because when they shipped your job overseas in the last administration,
he started it, all right? He started it.
Or administrations that came...
I'm trying to play peacemaker, okay? When it comes to moderation, we can't be just silencing people we don't agree with. That's not... That creates an echo chamber, okay?
For it, what they also did at the same time is they allowed those cartels to come in to our country and take advantage of our communities. So what the working class families tax cut does is, yes, it gives you more take-home pay. Yes, it cuts taxes on overtime. Yes, it cuts taxes on tips, but it also gives our incredible law enforcement over $100 billion to get those drug cartels the hell out of our country once and for all. It's very simple. Donald Trump's Republican Party wants very simple things for this country. We want you to be able to earn a good living in your community. We want you to be able to walk down a city street in broad daylight without getting mugged.
Yo, dirty.
We want you to be able to take your family out to a nice meal wherever you want to without the fear of violence from criminals, whether they're domestic criminals
we gotta
or
calm down, dirty.
drug cartels. If you work hard every single day, you ought to take as much of your hard-earned pay home as possible. And if you want to raise your children in security and comfort, you ought to send them to a school that gives them a good education instead of an indoctrination. These are very simple things, ladies and gentlemen, and all we needed was better leadership in Washington to deliver it. Now, Representative Van Orden will tell you this, but if you didn't know, that it turned out that we didn't get a single Democrat vote for cutting taxes on tips, cutting taxes on overtime, or increasing the child tax credit. Not a single Democrat in the House or the Senate could actually deign to vote for giving you more of your hard-earned money. And we got to ask ourselves why that is. Because as much as I am proud of what we've accomplished, it would honestly be a little bit easier, wouldn't it, Derek, if the Democrats actually worked with us instead of fighting us every single step of the way. And you're going to see this. We're a little early for campaign season, but in a couple months or maybe about a year, you're going to start seeing television advertisements. And you're going to start seeing Democrats lying about what's in these working families tax cuts. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they're going to say. They're going to tell you that this bill, which gives you more of your hard-earned money, that they opposed it, not because they want to raise your taxes, and they do, but because they're worried about your health care. They are so worried about your health care, in fact, that they want to give more and more of your health care to illegal immigrants. And that's exactly why they voted against this bill. I know we have this beautiful high school class back there. And I'll give you, just from a vice president to the high school seniors, I'll give you guys just a little bit of relationship advice from a man who's been happily married for 11 years. Find yourself somebody who loves you as much as national Democrats love giving health care benefits to illegal aliens. That's my advice for you. Because it is, as far as I can tell, it is, as far as I can tell, the reason why the National Democratic Party exists. Do you know that this bill makes tens of billions of dollars in investments in our rural health care infrastructure, which was falling apart under the last administration? This legislation guarantees that hardworking Americans are going to have access to their Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid benefits. What this bill refuses to do, and what Republicans absolutely refuse to do, is to give your hard-earned benefits to people who don't have the legal right to be in this country to begin with. It is very simple. And if you want to protect the people's benefits, if you want to protect rural health care, if you want to make sure that whether you live in a big city or a small town, you have the ability to go and see a doctor, and that is exactly what we want to do, then the first thing you ought to be doing is making sure that the people who get federal health care benefits actually have the right to be in this country in the first place. That is the first and most important step. And that's what this legislation did. So don't believe the lies and don't believe the attacks. What we are doing with this legislation is giving you a tax cut and trying to rebuild the healthcare infrastructure of this country that got decimated under Joe Biden's leadership. But what we are also doing, in order to preserve the benefits that you paid into for your entire lives, is making sure those benefits only go to our fellow American citizens and not to people who ought to go back to their home country because they're here in this country illegally. It's very simple. And think about this. Think about the math, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot have these health care benefits if you allow tens of millions of people into this country who have no legal right to be here and give them those benefits. We were on the freight train to bankruptcy under Joe Biden's leadership because we had a Democratic Party that didn't care enough about this country to actually enforce our borders. And it's that simple. And so when I see the Democrats, I got to be honest with you, it makes me a little bit angry. When I see Democrats fighting against cutting your taxes and saying it's about health care, it's not about health care for you, it's about health care for illegal aliens. And we happen to believe in a different principle. You ought to keep more of your hard-earned money. That if you work overtime, you ought to be rewarded for it. And that when you pay into the federal system, you receive those benefits and not anybody who didn't pay into them to begin with. So, let me say just a couple more things and then I'll hit the road, but maybe I'll take some questions. Should we take some questions from the fake news, ladies and gentlemen? Would that be fun? Okay, we can do that too, but we'll try to focus on the local Wisconsin reporters first because I know that they're not fake news, right? We got good local reporters here in Wisconsin? I don't know, mixed reviews based on the crowd here, but let me just say a couple more things. So this business, this manufacturing facility, I think represents the future of American craftsmanship. And I was talking to the CEO and to Jake earlier about this, but you know, there's this attitude that some people have that manufacturing, it's the jobs of the past, it's the industry of the past, that it's dirty, that it's not innovative. Why? I challenge any journalist to walk around this facility for 10 minutes and not realize that this is one of the most innovative companies in America, and this is the future of American industry, the future of American innovation, and the future of American manufacturing. They're using artificial intelligence in this facility. They're using robotics in this facility. They're doing things that frankly were not even possible 20 years ago, and they're doing them in order to build a great American future. We are practically a stone's throw away from a beautiful new bridge, a bridge that is being built with American-made steel from this manufacturing facility, because we have great American craftsmen right here in Wisconsin, and we ought to fight for them. And I know the people out in the crowd, the people standing behind me, there are stories of proud work being done every single day. There are stories of a good wage being earned that allows these folks to support their families. There's stories of products that exist in the United States of America that we need, that we absolutely rely on, that are made right here with American workers and American hands. That makes me so proud to be your vice president, to get to stand here, to get to see a little bit of it, to take a little tour, to recognize that the American future that our children deserve, that the American future that our children rely on is going to be built by and for American workers, and you guys are the proudest American workers in that tradition. So God bless you, and thank you. And these guys, they're proud of what they do. They're doing something amazing. They're doing something that can't be done almost anywhere else in the world. They're earning a good wage in the process. This is what makes America great. And I love my papa. I said he was a union welder for 42 years. He was a proud man. He was a hardworking man. But my papa, before he died, he used to tell me that, you know, he didn't know that American manufacturing was going to be as strong in the future as it was in his time. And again, I love my papa, but I think that's the wrong attitude. American manufacturing must be as strong in the future, or America's future will not exist without it. Do you think that our kids are going to have a future if we rely on foreign countries to make everything that we need? Do you think we're going to have a future if the pharmaceuticals that we put into the bodies of our children are made by a foreign adversary? Do you think we have a future if we can't even drive over a bridge without asking permission from some foreign country? That is no way to build a future. The way to build a future is with American workers, and I'm proud that in Wisconsin that's exactly what we're doing. So God bless you all. And I want to say just one final thing, and I'm going to end this on a somber note. We've had some fun here, but I'm very mindful of the fact that we're just a couple of minutes away from the Minnesota border. And of course, we had this terrible, terrible school shooting yesterday in Minneapolis. And I imagine, like a lot of you all, it hits pretty close to home, very personally, because though you may not know anybody who's affected by it, I think a lot of us know people who've been taking their kids in the last couple of weeks to their first day of school. And in fact, my son, my little 5-year-old, I love him so much, and if you're watching, buddy, Daddy loves you. He started his first day of kindergarten just 2 days ago. And again, we're very proud of him, and we love him very much, but I know that there are a lot of families who are in their first week of school just outside of Minneapolis, and that was pierced. That incredibly pure and wonderful moment was pierced by a very vicious and a very evil person. And so I just want to say a couple of things. The first thing that I want to say is, remember, we're an American family. And the people who lost children, they are your fellow Americans. And those children who lost their lives and lost their future, they are your fellow citizens. So think about them and say a prayer for them. And remember that they are as much us as our neighbors right here in this wonderful community in Wisconsin. And the thing that they need most of all is they need their fellow Americans to reach out and care about them. And I know that every single one of us is going to do that. That's the first thing that I wanted to say. The second thing that I wanted to say is, when I first heard the news, I was worried that the death toll was going to be higher based on what the media reports were saying. And right now, there are still a couple of kids, some of whom in very critical condition, who may yet survive this. And I think they would appreciate your prayers, and their families would appreciate your prayers as well. So if you are the praying type, I'd ask you to say a prayer tonight for those kids that are still recovering, that they may recover fully and go on to live.
Guys, the couch fucker allegations, we looked into it. I believe they're false. As funny as they are, I believe they're false. It was supposedly from one of his memoirs. If somebody could find the memoir like quote or excerpt, we'll check it out. But I looked and apparently it was made up. But still a hilarious bit of detail. And they said that they put they took a latex glove and turned it inside out and put it in the couch. I'm like, whoever came up with this has absolutely done it before, because that type of detail to come up with, or they're a writer. They might be a writer. I don't know. But if somebody has that, though, we'll look into it. But I think it's a fake claim.
A full life, the life that was deprived from a couple of their classmates. And, you know, the stories, I'd encourage you to read some of the stories about what happened yesterday, about the violence, about the fact that you had 10-year-old kids laying over their friends to look after them and to try to protect them. And while yesterday was an unspeakable tragedy, I'd ask you to remember that we also saw the very best of the United States of America. And to every person who protected a friend, to every first responder, to every paramedic who made it so the death toll wasn't higher, we love you, we're proud of you, and we'll never forget the great American spirit that you showed yesterday. And on that note, there's going to be a time for politics, and there's going to be a time to figure out how to prevent this stuff from happening, how to make these shootings less common in our country. And I'm not going to speak about that now, but I would encourage you, the First Lady, Melania, who really has a very big heart for children, obviously as a mother herself, she put out a statement earlier today that I think is really worth taking a look at, because this happens too much in our country. And if you look, we really do have, I think, a mental health crisis in the United States of America. We take way more psychiatric medication than any other nation on earth. And I think it's time for us to start asking some very hard questions about the root causes of this violence. And I'm going to be part of that, and the First Lady and the President are going to be part of that. But that's going to be an American conversation that we're going to have together.
No, I get it is funny. It is funny.
If you are the praying type, I would ask you to join me in prayer. I'm just going to say a prayer for the two little kids who lost their lives yesterday. And this is a prayer we say a lot in my church, and I've always found it very meaningful. It's very short. But eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. Thank you all. Now, with that, I will take some questions from the reporters. But again, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for indulging that moment. I think it's important for our fellow Americans to know that we're reaching our arms around them and we love them. And you guys gave me the opportunity to do that, and so I'm grateful for it. God bless you. Questions?
Welcome back, Dirty. Welcome.
Caden Perry, La Crosse Tribune, local reporter. I'm curious, a lot of investments in the steel industry in this nation, especially the signing of the Nippon and U.S. Steel merger in Pennsylvania, a lot of those investments seem to be going to the Rust Belt and major corporations there. Can you point to something in your policy that will help small businesses like this and others that are maybe outside of the conventional areas for the Rust Belt?
Yeah, so first of all, by ensuring that facilities like this have access to great American-made steel, we make sure they're never going to get cut off. and I talked to the CEO about this earlier, we make sure that they're always going to have the supplies necessary to do the business that they need to do. And that's a very important thing, because as we learned during the COVID pandemic, when you rely on foreign countries to make your critical supply, sometimes those foreign countries don't work. You can't depend on them. We can depend on our fellow Americans, and that's why it's so important, big corporation and small, to bring this stuff back to the United States.
My fellow Pelicans.
What is going to help this small business? Well, first of all, the workers here, when they work an overtime shift, are not going to have to pay taxes on those overtime hours. That's going to help the workers and consequently the business right here in this facility. But also,
this is a beautiful split today. Is Trump doing a good job? Poll in chat. 49% say yes. Well, now it's 48%. 52% say no. Very, very close today. It's wild.
So you heard Secretary Burgum talk
it's
about
perfectly balanced, really.
When a plant like this makes a big investment, we want to make that pay in the tax code. We don't want to penalize them for investing in American workers and American production. And the working families tax cut, you know what it does? It completely accelerates depreciation, so that when they make a big investment, when they buy a big amount, when they buy a big new facility or they buy a big new piece of equipment, they can immediately benefit from that in the tax code. And it's such a reversal from what we've had in this country for 40, 50 years, where we would penalize companies in the tax code for building and making in the United States of America. Under President Trump's leadership, we're rewarding companies in the tax code for building and making right here at home. Next question.
Good afternoon. Charles Benson with TMJ4 out of Milwaukee. As you know, the president this week signed an executive order around the National Guard. And so I'm curious if you can give us some more detail on that, wanting the National Guard members to be available for rapid mobilization and establish a quick reaction force. My question would be, would that quick reaction force be deployed to help with day-to-day police work? And would a governor, like the governor of Wisconsin, have the option to say no to any deployment nationwide?
Well, let me say a few things about this. First of all, the principle at stake here is very simple. Americans ought to feel safe on American streets. How many of us... How many of us have crossed to the other side of a street because there's a person on the street corner yelling and screaming at our kids or at our family? How many people have felt scared to walk down the street of an American neighborhood in daylight or at night because those streets are considered no-go zones? How ridiculous is it that we ever let there be no-go zones on streets paid for by American taxpayers? You bought those streets, you ought to be able to enjoy them as American citizens. It's very, very simple. So that is the principle at stake here. And in Washington, D.C., let's step back a little bit. Washington, D.C. got to a point where it was having a murder more than every other day. The national capital of the most powerful nation in the history of the world had a murder every other day, carjackings, armed robberies that rival literal third world countries. And the President of the United States said, this is America's city and enough is enough, and he deployed the National Guard to fix it. Now, that was the right decision at the time. But I don't know how anybody can look at the results over the last 14 days and say anything other than thank God Donald Trump did what he did. Because armed robberies, carjackings, murders are down between 40 to 90%. Even the very Democratic mayor of D.C. said yesterday that she was grateful for the additional police presence because it made it possible for people, Americans, black, white, rich, and poor, to enjoy the nation's capital again. And that's what I want. I mean, all of you, Washington, D.C. is your town. You literally built it with your tax dollars. You should be able to come and go to one of these beautiful museums or see one of these incredible monuments without fear that you're going to get mugged. And that's what we have changed in just a short period of time. And you asked the Wisconsin-specific question. What the president has said is that, very simply, we want governors and mayors to ask for the help. The President of the United States is not going out there forcing this on anybody, though we do think that we have the legal right to clean up America's streets if we want to. But what the President has said is very simply is, why don't you invite us in? Is Milwaukee a super safe city right now? It's had some crime problems. It's a beautiful city. There are a lot of beautiful, incredible, hardworking people.
Tilly, you said Milwaukee is not full of crime. It's safe. Anybody in Milwaukee? How is it?
People who live there, but let's be honest, Milwaukee has had some crime problems. So have other parts of our community. Chicago, I know we're not too far from Chicago. Chicago's had a lot of crime problems. Why is it that you have mayors and governors who are angrier about Donald Trump offering to help them than they are about the fact that their own residents are being carjacked and murdered in the streets? It doesn't make an ounce of sense. And the last... And the last point that I'll make about this, sir, is, I'm going to violate the advice I gave to the President of the United States yesterday, because we were having lunch yesterday, and the President said, JD, I don't know how I did it. I have actually got the Democrats to come out in defense of crime. And it is crazy. If Donald Trump came out tomorrow and said he really likes puppies, you would have AOC come out and say puppies are terrible. So you have Donald Trump, who has reduced murders, carjackings, and armed robberies in 14 days in Washington, D.C., and now you have national Democrats coming out and saying, oh, well, we love murders and carjackings and armed robberies. Why won't Democrats just use some common sense? We're going to disagree about stuff from time to time. I'm sure Democrats want higher taxes and I want lower taxes. We may disagree about some foreign policy issues, but on this basic principle that murdering people, armed robberies, carjackings are bad, wouldn't it be nice if the Democrats just worked a little across the aisle for once? Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Matt Smith, WISN TV in Milwaukee. To what you just said, Milwaukee's mayor the other day said absolutely not to any talk of National Guard troops. Would the administration consider ever coming into a city like Milwaukee?
Well, again, we want to be invited into Milwaukee. We want to help people. We want to help our fellow citizens. And we think that if you look at the crime rates, if you look at the murders in Milwaukee, if you look at certain neighborhoods where people are unafraid to go out even in the middle of the day, we would love to come and help the people of Milwaukee. But the President of the United States has said he wants to be asked. And that has been his consistent line from the very beginning, that we have an incredible law enforcement capability in the United States. You know what's crazy about crime? It
says it's a little up. The overall crime rate is 49.15, or like 49 per 1,000 people, compared to the national average of 33. And the violent crime rate is more than 3 times the national average. So it's a little bit, a little bad from the sounds of it.
Most of the violent...
I know a lot of people be like, it's not the worst place. I'm not saying it's the worst place. We're just looking up. Like, is it bad? Does it have crime? How bad is it? Tilly's saying it's not that bad. Tilly's saying it's all right.
Crime is
like any other
by
place.
A very small number of people. When we talk about a violent crime problem, we're not talking about thousands upon thousands of people in Milwaukee. We're talking about a few hundred people who probably commit 90% of the violent crime. We would love to come in and help lock up those violent criminals. I hope the mayor of Milwaukee gets some common sense and actually fights for her residents for a change, or his residents for a change, because we would love to actually help cut down on the crime in this community. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Anthony DeBruzzi, Spectrum News, Wisconsin.
No, good
Sticking
point,
with
but
Milwaukee,
I mean,
but a
still.
little different. Yesterday, Governor Tony Evers requested a disaster declaration from President Trump after the historic flooding that we've seen in the Milwaukee area. So can Wisconsinites count on the administration for financial help through this?
Yeah, so obviously, look, we want to help people, and we want to help our fellow citizens, and I know that Wisconsin has suffered some serious problems. I have not talked to the President of the United States. I'm not even sure that he's aware yet that the governor has issued that disaster declaration, but I will take that back to Washington, D.C., and make sure we respond to it promptly. Thank you, sir.
Hi, Mr. Vice President. Daniel Gomez, WEAU in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So I see that you've been touring around the country, visiting congressional battleground districts. No different here, Wisconsin's third. You're here also garnering up some support for Derek Van Orden. So my question here is, can we expect you again next year when we actually get to the midterm elections? And will you also address other issues in Wisconsin's third district, which include agriculture, childcare, healthcare, and all these other things that impact rural, hardworking, working class Wisconsinites here?
Of course. Well, do you all want to have me back next year? Is that okay? All right. Look, so long as the people of the 3rd District will have me, yes, I will keep on coming back and keep on talking about the issues that matter. You asked about agriculture, I think rural health care, and also child care. Look, if you look at the working families tax cut, there's a lot there for agriculture. There's a lot. For example, if you buy a new tractor, you buy a new piece of farm equipment, wouldn't it be nice if you were rewarded in the tax code instead of penalized in the tax code? Well, now, thanks to the working families tax cut, you are going to be rewarded, which is why the farmers were really big and supportive and behind the legislation. We had such great support from our farming community in Wisconsin and all over the country for this legislation, I think in part because it does a lot for our farmers. You asked about health care. Look, rural health care in this country is in bad shape. It was left in bad shape by the previous administration, and this legislation, the Working Families Tax Cut, has got tens of billions of dollars to shore up our rural health care system. It is so unusual to hear Democrats say this is going to be bad for health care when we're spending billions of dollars to try to fix some of the rural health care problems in our country. And by the way, has anybody been awake for the last 4 years? Any of these national Democrats? How was the rural health care system doing under Joe Biden when you had hospitals and clinics closing at a record and alarming rate? We're trying to fix that. We want people to be able to access to health care, but we want American citizens to be able to access health care, and that's what makes us different from the National Democrat Party. And I'll take maybe a couple more questions, then we're going to hit the road.
Hi, thank you so much for taking questions from us. My name is Laura Schulte. I'm a reporter with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. You've talked a little bit, about the disaster declaration, but I'm wondering, how long will Milwaukee have to wait for a disaster declaration from President Trump?
Well, if I understood the question correctly, and this is the first time that I'm hearing about it, we got the request from the governor yesterday. Is that right? Okay, so I mean, it's very possible that request has not even made it to the president's desk. I mean, these things sometimes take more than 12 hours before they get to the president's desk. So what I can promise you is now that I'm aware of it, we're going to take a look at it. We're going to make sure that it gets the review that it requires. And look, we love Wisconsin. We love all of our American citizens. People are struggling. We recognize that, and we want to figure out ways to help them. Thank you.
Mr. Vice President, Adam Roberts, News Radio WTMJ, also out of Milwaukee. A follow-up to that question as well. I know that you still have time to make this decision, but can you explain why President Trump or yourself did not tour the southeast Wisconsin area like was done in Texas after their historic flooding?
Yeah, I can give you a very simple answer to that question is, if you remember the Texas flooding, the president did not show up until he felt like he could provide comfort and aid to some of the grieving families, but not actually be a huge distraction for law enforcement. I mean, look, it is a reality of the world that when the president or the vice president of the United States show up, there are a lot of Secret Service, there's a lot of local law enforcement. And I remember explicitly being in the Oval Office talking with the president about this. He said, I really want to go to Texas, and I really want to visit with these grieving families, but we can't do it until the local law enforcement says we can support this without affecting the recovery and other efforts. So we would love to visit, we would love to talk to people, but some of this depends on we talk with local law enforcement, and we don't just want to show up for a photo op. We want to show up and actually help, and that's what the President of the United States is focused on. Thank you, sir. And I'll do one more question before we hit the road.
Jeff Murdoch, The Washington Times. So there are plenty of people, there are scores of people still in jail that have been pardoned under President Biden's auto pens. Do you think they should be released from prison?
Well, I think that there's something weird about this auto pen, which is that you have a guy who even some of his own staff members said did not have the mental faculty to be.
Yeah, we got to look into this auto pen stuff. You guys mention it a lot. Like how much stuff was signed with an auto pen, and I mean, where are we on sort of Biden's mental sort of faculties? Because it seemed like all the Democrats were cool with Biden and he was, super sharp and everything. And then after that first debate with Trump, everybody seemed to turn their back on him all of a sudden. And he pretty much just got swept under the rug as if he never existed. And we just never really revisited that.
President of the United States, okay? While at the same time, he allegedly signed a bunch of pardons, which we now know were signed by the auto pen. I think it raises a very difficult question about whether those pardons were actually legitimate in the first place. I mean, think about this. How can you sign a pardon? How can you engage in presidential conduct that's binding if your own staff members are saying,
All right, you're saying that, let's see, Neon, you said Trump used an auto pen for the January 6 pardons.
well, this guy wasn't exactly fit to be the president of the United States. So look, I'll let the courts figure this out. As the president of the United States has said, President Trump, we always follow the court orders and we always try to work with the courts. But I think the American people, far more than, whether this pardon is thrown out or that pardon is thrown out by the court, let's step back and ask ourselves, how is it that the American media and senior members of the Democratic Party conspired to hide us from the fact that the President of the United States wasn't fit to do the job? This is about more than politics. This is about more than policy disagreements. This is about if you get a phone call at 3 a.m. and there's a national security emergency, does the person who's answering the phone have the mental ability to do the job? And
yeah, it's like, what are they using the auto pen for, though, right? Because if they have to sign, I don't know, like 100 documents a day or 200 documents a day or something to where it kind of has to be pushed off to somebody else just to actually get it done, then there must be some types of documents that just normally go to the auto pen and then some that are more important that maybe go to the president, right? Again, I need to look into the auto pen thing. How much it's used by each president, what it's, supposed to be used for.
And if the answer is no, then all of us, Democrat, Republican, and Independent, have been defrauded. And I think the Biden presidency is a big, fat example of the American media defrauding the American people. So on that note, I just want to thank you all again for having us. And just remember, we are every single day in Washington, D.C., we are fighting for you. We're fighting for your jobs. We're fighting for your wages. We're fighting for low taxes for you and your families. We're fighting for rural health care. We believe that the most important thing the President of the United States can do is put the interests of Americans first. That is what we have done for 7 months, and we'll keep on doing it for the next 3.5 years. God bless you all. Thank you for having me.
Hello. No, Lord, before I get claimed by that. So not too much new information. This is a random song to play. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. It gets heated in chat, but we're all friends, right? Double tap your screen if you enjoy the vibe. Subscribe. I do think in a few minutes I am going to get off and get some food and then circle back and hop back on and hang out for a bit today. Oh my gosh, release the files, yes. We did a whole long stream with a Ghislaine Maxwell interview with the Attorney General. We also did that Prince Andrew interview, but YouTube or somebody did not like us doing that interview, so that is not on my channel. Although that was a really fun stream. I was dying during that. It sucks that they made me cut it. Eat well. Appreciate you. You too. I can't say it'll be healthy, but I will be intaking calories, so it's a low bar, but damn it, I'll reach it. Why did you hide Volcanic? Oh my gosh, Dirty, like, don't be ridiculous. Volcanic is fine. I don't even know how to unhide people. Oh my god. Ghislaine. I know, it's kind of crazy that her name is... It is kind of crazy. Wait, accidentally. You accidentally timed him out, bro. I think you're so adept at timing people out now to do it by accident. I don't know, that sounds like a story to me. Bourbon says there are actually rumors he can't read, but I think he used a prompter before. Maybe go back and check for an earpiece. I don't know if you guys have ever like had somebody like talking in your ear while you're trying to talk, or like set your headphones up to where you could hear yourself with like a 12 millisecond or 15 millisecond delay and talk into a microphone and see how hard it is to actually talk. It does something like when you hear yourself talking or hear somebody else talking in your ears at the same time that you're speaking, it kind of messes you up and you're going to trip over words. Especially if it's yourself on a delay. Not to say that's not possible, but I just feel like feeding words to somebody to have them repeat at the same time, it could just be difficult. I don't know what that was about to be. I was about to be way too aggressive. As is this, actually. There we go. I'm just saying, in some cases, it would actually be harder to talk like that. Jack, where's Jack? I don't see Jack spamming. Where's Jack spam? Well, today was a beautiful, beautiful mix. I hope it's, I don't know if it's just the weekend, if it's like holiday vibes or something. You said that's an inappropriate word. I don't know about Trump having dementia. You know, one thing I could say about Trump is he does go out and speak for a long time. He takes questions, it seems like all the time, and seems pretty quick. Yeah, sometimes he does the weave or, you know, whatever political answer he gives or doesn't give, right? But he's able to keep going for a while and seems as though he's like there. That was one of my main complaints with Biden, is I was looking for him to take questions, looking for him to speak on things, and it just felt as though he didn't do that as much. And I hope moving into the future, for future presidents, we have, you know, the type of transparency where they're just answering a lot of questions all the time. Oh, dirty. My God. I was seeing a bunch of normal messages getting silenced, and then Tilly was saying you were silencing, and I'm going through the messages and it was looking like pretty normal messages. And you seem pretty aggressive with some of those timeouts, man. I mean, 1,200 seconds. Hey, Crystal, welcome. Exactly. Oh man, good thing Crystal wasn't in here. And then everybody would have been silenced. That would have been ridiculous. Crystal, they've been using all caps. I couldn't stop them. I'm sorry. Norton's not here though, so it shouldn't be too bad. Or Norton, are you here? Say what's up if you're here. I feel like it's too early for Norton. Isn't it too early, Crystal, for you to be on? The hell? What are you doing right now? What are you doing at this time? No caps, guy. Oh my God, stop. Stop. Trump was in front of the camera in 1 month more than Joe's whole presidency. That could actually be true. That's the scary part. That could actually be true. Oh, you're on break. Wow. Thank you for choosing to hang out here on Black Hole Radio during your break. Hopefully it's a good break. Hopefully it's a good day. Oh, guys, I think we've cracked 4,000 subs. Appreciate y'all. Ew. Be sure to hit the like button. I'm killing my camera for a second. I'm gonna go whip up some coffee. Y'all can chat, finish up your guys' arguments, you know, shake hands, and live to fight another day. Or in a few hours when I hop back on here. We'll catch up on the latest news of the day. A couple of memes. You guys could drop by the Discord, drop links if you want some stuff on stream, some of your memes. And then we'll probably round out the day with some gaming, a little bit of Zomboid, because that's what I've been addicted to as of recently. Not the worst addiction one could have. Oh my God, Tilly, I'll talk to you on Discord. I got you. Guys, mods, we would have to have a chat on Discord for the love of God, because this is ridiculous. Yeah, I hear you guys. It's a whole thing I'm trying to work out, right? There's a balance to the chaos that one has to find, and I guess I have yet to find it. But that's what makes this all so much fun. Anyway, Let me get moving so I can get back here and we can get back to it. There wasn't really much to say about all that. It was kind of the norm. It was kind of the norm. I didn't want to make a 30-minute press briefing 6 hours long because I tend to do that. So... like, it'll take us a ridiculous amount some days to get through stuff. And where's Kami? Damn, I should have hit Kami up. Kami is a good balance to Dirty Money. Wait, which slur? Man, what slurs? Oh, Nola says Trump is doing a good job. Oh, okay. Oh, of destroying democracy. You had me. You had me in the first half, I'm not gonna lie. You threw a curveball there at the end. What's going on, Nola G? You know, when I use the word retard or I hear people use it, I just do not think about people with like immutable characteristics or like things they were born with, like disabilities or something. It's just not what comes to my mind. It's hard for me to believe that people mean that when they say it, because who would call a person with like a mental disability or something, or a disability in general, retarded? That just doesn't even make sense. Am I crazy? I feel like that is not how people use the word. I do think context kind of matters. Because I say retarded. And I do find some people to be retarded. However, I don't mean it in like that they have some sort of disability, like I said. They're just stupid. I don't know, it's just odd to me. Like, I just don't know. Like, does anybody use that word to... I've just never been in company of people that have used that word in that way. I'm just trying to, like, think about it for a second here. Okay, okay, sure. I'm sure people still use it that way. I haven't met every person, obviously, but I don't know, it's just odd to me. And if somebody was using it like that, like if somebody was like making fun of somebody with, those conditions, I'd be like, bro, you're retarded. You know what I mean? Like, because then they would be acting. You see what I'm saying? It's weird. Yeah. Try sounding visibly disabled. See how long before you think nobody uses it that way. Okay, I see what you're saying. Respect is the word. You don't know what you don't know. Does it mean you shouldn't know? There you go. Sentient beings are not food. We got, so you're a vegan or are you vegetarian? Willfully ignorant, not mentally ill. There we go. I like that. Willfully ignorant, not mentally ill. Yes. That you've put it so perfectly. Willfully ignorant. That's the way that I say I would use it, and I think a lot of people use it, although I'm sure some people, yeah, or maybe a lot of people, who knows, use it to mean mentally ill, but I would say willfully ignorant. Solid. Wait, nobody uses the word. Nobody uses what word? What are we even talking about? I was gonna say, if nobody uses the word, then we wouldn't be talking about it. Anyway, I mean, again, I just don't think it's sort of like that word is not, the words in general are not the end of the world. Like, let's be honest. I also think context and, yeah, a person's intent really matters, right? Like, bitch could mean female dog, or a woman could be calling another woman a bad bitch, which has a completely different connotation because she's not saying you're a bad female dog, right? I mean, the context and sort of intent of what we say seems to matter to some extent. Am I crazy? Yeah, sure, ignorant people. Who's this cat ear guy? What? Rabbit food. You're a white guy. How often do you throw around the N-word? I don't know who you're talking to. I'm not white, but I do try not to throw around the N-word too much. What are we Googling? Y'all are arguing. What are we Googling here? Look it up instead of standing in denial. Ooh, okay, what are we supposed to be looking up, guys? I'm curious. Show me where Ashley Ryan said the back was faked. Show me where any parent accused Biden of harassing their child. I don't know if people actually saying that they harassed his, or their children. The compilations are a little weird. That's all we could say. I guess people write it off as, hey, he's an old dude, Can't attach anything G here to direct to you, Chad. Yeah, I don't think that allows links in chat. Yeah. If you guys join the Black Hole Discord, you could drop your links there. Here's the Discord. Boom. Or if you are specific and I feel like it, I can look it up. Yeah, with how crazy people are, I kind of am glad you can't post links in the chat. Because that would just probably not be good. Which sucks, because it ruins it for everybody else. It would be nice if it was streamlined and I could just pull stuff up on the screen that y'all link. But it has to be a little bit more complicated. I want something a little bit more chill. This is a little too busy for me. That's a little too That's too That seems alright. I can do this. Marjorie. Yeah, I appreciate you. I try. We could always do better, but we're working on it. It's trying to balance the extremes, though. That's the fun part, right? I feel like it's having gas and fire in a bucket together, but trying to keep them separated. Some would say holding back an ocean with a broom. At least trying to. Yeah, that's the goal here. I'm sure circle jerks can be fun, but I get bored. I prefer opposing sides actually having a conversation. I mean, I guess they could argue, debate and whatnot, but it's more interesting to me. If everybody is just sitting around patting each other on the back and agreeing with each other 24/7, then I don't know, you're not really moving anywhere. You're just becoming more and more delusional, in my opinion. Because even if you're right, how often are you right? How long can you be right before you're wrong? And it's good to have people there to point out when you're wrong. Hey, you're kind of fucking up. It's oh shit, my bad. Let me correct that. Otherwise, you just drive off a cliff. Magic. Alice in Wonderland. What's going on, T-Bone? Why do I keep missing your messages? Oh, no, I saw your message earlier. Welcome. T-Bone Stallone. I like that. I like that. I was wrong yesterday, but upon further review, I found I was wrong about being wrong. Oh, we don't need all the accusations here. You know, people can be terrible without being PDFs. I don't know. We gotta chill it. People, everybody's a Nazi. Everybody's committing a genocide. Everybody's a racist. Everybody's a PDF. You know, if you keep using these terms to describe everything and everybody, they start to mean nothing. So I think we have to be just a little bit tighter, you know, with discriminating against people. You know, we need to discriminate more in using these words. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Even if you need to make up a whole new insult, if you're going to go the insulting route, I think that's better than just lobbing out the worst thing you could think of. Because then it also waters down your future points, right? If you run around calling everybody you know, racist or genocide or I don't freaking know. Whatever people are saying. People say all sorts of stupid shit. Nobody's gonna believe you in the future. You know, classic story, the boy who cried wolf, right? Now, if you have some sort of evidence for your claims against the chatters, T-Bone and whoever else you mentioned, I feel you then, you know, drop it in the chat. But I don't know. I think we're being too over the top with our language at times. Now, I'm all for free speech and everything. It's more of an optics thing. It's not whether you can or can't do it or ought to be able to do it, but whether rather you should do it, right? I'm over here tripping over my words. But okay, so Jack says, okay, Rob, you used a slur that's used to make fun of people I love. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Let me get my pop filter. All right, here we go. Coming from Jack. Rob, you used a slur that is used to make fun of people I love who have mental disabilities. Imagine for a second if there was another language and that other language had a word that sounded like retarded, right? But it's a completely different language. So the word means something completely different. So when like you hear them speaking their language, you know that when you hear that word, it obviously has a completely different context or just a completely different definition, right? Now, come back over to where we're at. Some people, I feel like, treat words in that way, even if it's still within their language. My whole point is, would you get mad at a person who is speaking a different language that was saying a word that in our language was bad, but in their language meant something different? It's like, okay, well, if you're not gonna be mad at them, why wouldn't you be mad at them? And it's, well, the context is different, right? Because they're using this word, but the word doesn't mean the same thing coming out of their mouth, right? I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy. Wait, how can calling somebody retarded be a crime? Could be a crime. That doesn't make sense. Tilly, listen. I'm over here trying not to like say every bad word on my stream, but let's just say I was watching a stream yesterday, and this streamer was using the F slur, the one that I don't think that you would like, right? And he kept using it, and he said, look, I use that word to call out people that present themselves to the world as something that they're not. They said you could be homosexual and not be an F slur. So this person is using the word differently. Now, you can still be offended by the way they're using it. Sure, they know that by using that word, it's going to offend people. But if the way that they're using the word is different and you understand it's different, then it's... yeah, the sound of it sonically in your ears and like the feeling that it evokes because of the definition that you have tied to it, I understand like the emotion and the feeling there. But if somebody's using it in a completely different context, it's kind of like... can you really be mad? You can't really take away the same information. You could say, well, they're ignorant for using that word in that way, but I feel like you could kind of meet people halfway there, you know? I mean, it's like, let's say you call people Nazis all the time or something, or PDFs. What if they said, okay, it's a crime to call somebody that now? Now you can't say that they're a Nazi. I just feel like that's, oh, now you can't say they're a PDF or something. Which honestly, I mean, I don't even know if you can say. I mean, that could be slander, I guess. Is it slander or defamation? I think it's slander, right? I know one is in written form, right? Or is that libel? Well, that's not necessarily true either, Tilly, but I think it's just a way to consider things. Because then you also have to know if the person's being honest. A person could be lying, right? They could be lying just to try to get away with saying a word. You know, it's obviously nuanced. But in some communities, they're going to throw around a word differently than they would throw that word around in other communities. In some communities, they use words that aren't used in other communities. And not every person in that community necessarily shares this same hatred or whatever thought that a lot of other people ascribe to that word. And instead of writing the person off right off the bat for that, I think sometimes getting some, deeper understanding, they might tell you, actually, yes, I'm using that word to, because I hate these people or whatever. Okay, fine, cool, whatever. Now you know. But some people might just not see it the same way. Or it's just in their vocabulary for whatever reason. You know, sometimes people say things without thinking about what they say, right? And then they get used to saying it. It's just kind of in your vocabulary, and they don't really think much past it. Not saying it's right or wrong or anything like that, but again, it's more of trying to understand the other person that you're talking to. And like, yeah. Yeah, no, in UK, I'd be careful, yeah. Tilly, you've told me a million times. No. You've mentioned where you were from here. Never mind. I always ask you, but I know where you're. Stop. Let me stop. I'm liking this vibe. What is this song? Letter, now playing on Black Hole Radio. Oh, I was hoping it was gonna stay like kind of dark. I spoke too soon. I mean, it's all right still. Yo, airing our dicks out. I love your name. That's fucking sick. Oh man, that's beautiful. So defamation is only a crime if it causes loss of profit or financial gains. So you could like prove damages basically. Rob Bobby, I said it. What's wrong with that? Huge difference. Yeah. U.S. defamation is extremely difficult to successfully smite. For if you're a public figure, you have to prove actual malice. What's going on, Paul? Well, I mean, I do think there is a difference between saying somebody's like a criminal and saying somebody's dumb. But at the same time, of course, you're interpreting that word to mean something else, so. Or to invoke something else, which is fair enough. The what is a woman question is a great question philosophically to ponder. And is great for stirring the pot in chat pretty much anytime. Eventually, I would love to have a conversation with somebody on stream that, you know, because there's a couple different viewpoints on that, right? The more conservative viewpoint is a woman is a biological female, full stop, boom. It would be interesting to have a conversation with somebody on the other side and get their explanation for it or definition and whatnot. I know it's like, you know, it's a meme question and everything, but I find it an interesting conversation because it's like one side is very easily understood. It's sort of like how it's traditionally been. The other side is sort of like, in a way, a new thing. And you could say, oh, it's been around here and there and these cultures and this. Yeah, but in like the broadest sense, it's new, right? If it wasn't, then everybody would be used to it and it wouldn't be a big deal. So in some ways, it's new. And it'd be interesting to be able to have that conversation with somebody that could like have an actual conversation about it, and it's not like the end of the world or they get offended or this, that, or the third, because I think I'm pretty respectful and I try to be. It's a weird conversation to have. It's to some extent because you're questioning a person's sort of identity in a sense, and I can see how that could come off a type of way. So like how I would thread that needle is, I don't know. You said the last 5 school shootings? I don't know if that's true. I know there's been a few, right? Tilly, you said define biology. I know, like that's for somebody else. I'm not doing that. I feel like I've had this conversation 20 times. Yeah. That's why I said it'd be interesting to talk to somebody on your side, Tilly, to get your sort of definition on, you know, what a woman is or what you see like as man and woman and what it means to be those things and blah, blah, blah. You said they're basically eunuchs. See what the Bible says about them. Paul says no. Oh my God. Nobody knows what a woman is. It's one of those mysteries of the universe. Jack, sis, not respond. Most mass shooters are straight white men. That's probably accurate. The whole gender, well, I guess gender does play into it, because let's be honest, most violent crimes are men, I believe. So you could make that distinction. I don't think the sexuality of crimes generally matters. Unless the numbers were crazy. If it was like 80% of violent crimes were like committed by gay people, that would be weird. Something, you would have to take a look at that. Like, wait a second. You said let people who are answer that, or ask someone like Joven or Arden. Who's Joven or Arden? It's time to tackle this trans issue, Lord Almighty. It really almost feels like it's too nuanced of a conversation for this live stream at this point. Pulse? Wait, what? Pulse shooting? Was it like Pulse nightclub? Is that what you're talking about? Was that in Florida, if I remember correctly? I could be like way off. Yeah, Florida gay club. Never question is why the fuck is that a demographic? Yeah, I was looking for some chill music. Why do humans eat animals? There's lots of reasons. The taste. I'm pretty sure like a deer could probably feed you for like a year or something crazy. The protein. Have you tasted bacon? It's pretty good. Jovan Bradley, Arden Hart. Are these like trans creators? Both on YouTube. Okay. Let me look them up right quick. We could do another, I don't want to say like another trans stream. We just did like one video, I think, that day. All right, Jovan Bradley. Oh, I'm already subscribed to him. The hell? Oh, wait. Okay, yeah. I've seen this guy. Wait a second. You might have put me onto this person. Okay, I'll watch some of his stuff again. I don't know who put me on to him. We'll watch some of his stuff, and I don't know how I felt. We'll see. Who's the other person? I mean, I'm sure they make good content. I'll have to just check it out again. All right, I'm feeling this one. They got a snake in their picture. I like snakes. I had a ball python some years back. All right, you know what? All right, I'll subscribe to them, boom, and I'll check out their stuff. Gives me some homework. wait, that may be Kami's doing. What are you talking about? Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, I think it was Kami. And I don't, yeah, I'll have to check it out. Some part of his content I like. I think there was something I had like I was like, I don't know about, but I can't really recall. So I'm going to go in fresh with a fresh slate and experience his content again. But realistically, I'm just looking for, I guess the arguments. It's not even arguments. It's really just trying to understand the trans experience is really all I'm asking for. Because it's like, I'm a dude, all right? I was born a dude in the sense of biologically, right? I've never felt as though I was in the right or wrong body. I just kind of felt like things are as they are. And I'm interested in the feeling of either feeling like you're in the wrong body. Is it like you have a feeling that you're in the wrong body? Or is it that you want society to treat you in the way that you perceive they treat the other gender? And I imagine there's distinction here between people. I imagine not all trans people are the same. Some of them maybe feel like, oh, they're in the wrong body. Maybe some of them feel, differently and stuff. So I'd probably need more than one conversation with one trans person. But those are the questions I'm trying to get at. Exactly. Fish don't know what drowning in water feels like. And other gender, so no. I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. Do you feel as though you are physically in the wrong body? Are you having like a physical sort of a feeling to your sort of physical body where you're not connecting? Or are you not connecting socially, where you want to be seen socially as something that you're not being seen as? And I imagine, again, it's like a Venn diagram. It could be a mix of these two things. Sure, many other things. But that's like the heart of my question. Well, I mean, you're kind of getting to where I'm at, Tilly. Well, my whole thing, you say, why can't people be who they are if they're not hurting others? There's so many different ways to take this. On one hand, obviously, let people do what they want. I don't care. Doesn't affect me. Why do I care? Now, the women's sports thing, to be honest with you, doesn't affect me. Don't really care. But if I look at it, I'm like, well, it does affect some people. The bathroom thing, maybe people make too big of an issue over that one, possibly. I think the sports one, though, I think there's actually a conversation to be had there. Probably shouldn't be participating in like contact sports and stuff. Probably shouldn't, but regardless, that's a whole nother topic. In terms of just operating in society, like socially, they should have no issue, but not everybody's gonna like you. And just know that. There's a million reasons to dislike somebody, right? Some people don't like, are sexist, right? Some people are racist. Some people are this, some people are just normal, right? But nobody has to like you and whatnot. So if somebody dislikes you for that thing, it sucks, but that's just kind of like what it is. So it's like, yeah, you want everybody to like be happy and just live as they want to live. But if a bunch of people don't understand something, then they're going to react to it in negative ways, right? So if people don't understand trans people, I think they're going to react in a negative way. So what I try to do is I'm trying to understand, right? And if you could help other people understand the experience, I feel like people would not react as negatively. And then Dirty Money's like, no. Let's see. I call it how I see it. Gender dysphoria is included in the DSM-5 as support people being whoever they want to be, but mental health needs to be included in that conversation. Yeah, and then even when you add, mental health into the conversation, it gets dicey too, because then people, it could sound like you're almost attacking their identity or whatnot by, I think, asking certain questions and whatnot. Some bear meat. I've had bear meat. Only once, I think. Apparently bear meat's really dirty, or it could be full of like nasty shit. You gotta be careful with it. That's what I hear. If I had some when I was a kid. Deer jerky. I don't know why. I just always think of the deer jerky I had when I was younger. I had some neighbors that would hunt. They'd make deer jerky. They'd make so much. I'd get like bags of it from them. Oh my God, it was so good. Ah. You said talking about mass shooters, regardless of gender, trans, or whatever, SSRIs or SSRI drugs are a big factor in those crimes. That'd be an interesting bit of info to look up. The connection between them. Like if it turned out that like 95% of shooters were on SSRIs, then I'd be like, huh, interesting. Wait, don't imagine you're a dude who wants to be a woman if you're a dude who likes being a dude. Imagine you're a woman born a woman and you feel like you do about being a dude. Yeah, see, there's a problem with that is I don't know that I necessarily feel like a dude in that sense. Like, I feel like if I was born as a woman, I would probably I feel like whatever body I was born into, I would just be that, basically. Like, my whole entire life would be different if I was a woman. Like, I would have been treated differently, and my life would be different. I'd probably think differently if I was a woman, right? And not to mention the estrogen and stuff, that must have a different effect on me rather than the testosterone. I mean, but I get your point. Imagine I am how I am now, but in a woman's body. But that's just silly to me because it's just like, I don't think it would work like that. I get what you mean, but I don't have a feeling that's attached necessarily to my sex in that way. Like, I just am a man. Like, I just simply am. There's not much of a feeling that comes with it besides just being. I just am. I think, therefore, I am. It just so happens that the skin suit I'm in is male. Cool. You know what I'm saying? Like... But yeah, but that's what I'm getting at though, is I'm trying to find that disconnect for me. Because obviously people are having an experience that I'm not having, where they're feeling like really connected to this idea of like gender. To take estrogen, Spiro for a month. Well, the only way you notice is a difference between two things. My point is, being in my body my whole entire life, of course, I'm not going to know a difference because I've only been a man. And I don't know if just bombing myself with estrogen is necessarily going to give me the same experience as a woman, although I will have the experience of having my hormones shifted and I guess having more estrogen or whatnot. But even so, the issues I'd be having with that, or the difference, I mean, of course there'd be differences. I'd be feeling, it's like if I took cocaine right now, I'd be feeling different, right? I mean, if I ingested drugs that, messed with my, physiology or pharmacology or whatever, I would feel different. But my whole point is, if you're in that mind state your whole entire life, then it doesn't really make a difference. I don't know. Wait, what if you could change your skin suit? Like, you can have a walk-in closet. Damn, I think this one's kind of clever. Bear meat is extremely toxic if not prepared correctly. It is not a very good food source for us hungry humans. I see what you're saying. You'd have a taste of, okay, yeah, what having the wrong hormones would feel like. I see what you're saying. No, I would notice the difference. I don't disagree with you. Like I just said, if I ingest a whole bunch of different substances, I'm going to notice a difference from before I started taking the substance to after I started taking the substance. We're not going to argue on that. So you're saying like being a woman is simply just, let's say, taking estrogen and having like the hormones in you to feel that way? See, this is what's confusing me, because if you have to take the estrogen in order to feel like a woman, then you wouldn't take the estrogen in the first place to feel like a woman. But sorry. You're saying take the estrogen as a way to see what it feels like. You're saying you would already have these feelings before the estrogen. But what feeling are you having before the estrogen that's telling you that you're the other sex or gender? And also, are you making a distinction between sex and gender? Take estrogen and show us your boobs. Guys, listen. $10,000, we get a tit job. No, I'm just kidding. But isn't there a streamer that basically did that? Free the boobs, take estrogen. Makes brain function properly if brain expects different hormone. So is that what's happening? Is the brain, have they shown that, okay, the brain is different? Like a man and woman's brain is essentially different. The brain is expecting estrogen or expecting, whatever. And it's not getting it, which is causing people to have this experience. And if we just give it to them, then everything is good to go. I'm just not one for outlawing words. It's like, dude, if you say something stupid and get smacked in the face, that's on you. I don't think words should necessarily be off limits, though. It's like, take your life in your own hands and know who you're dealing with. But it's a collection of syllables. I just, to not be allowed to utter it like as if it's Voldemort or as if something, it's just stupid. It's just dumb. I think we should be able to say whatever we want to say, and people are going to treat you based on what you say. So yeah, I want people to say all the slurs they want to say, because if somebody's going off saying a bunch of slurs, maybe I don't want to hang out with them. Maybe that tells me I don't want to be around them. I'd rather them do it out in the open and all that kind of stuff than do it behind closed doors. And there's a such thing as comedy and humor and stuff. There is context for using slurs, in my opinion, as like a joke. If there wasn't, every single comedian would probably be canceled. At least nowadays, I guess comedy is different. They don't really talk like that, but I'm just saying, it's just kind of, I don't know, words, just words. You're either gay or not. Having fun, changing clothes, or doing drugs is not explaining feminism and masculinity. Even gay, you're one or the other. Right, yeah, we haven't even gotten really to masculinity and femininity. If an XY person thinks they should be XX, shouldn't they get more hormones that are for XY instead of those for XX? Wait, what? Oh. Wait a second, that's an interesting point. You're saying do it the other way around and it would get rid of the feeling altogether. I think that's where you're going. Rob thinks people with disabilities are stupid. Rob, do you think that? Really, bro? The brain scan thing is a debatable mess, but when treating distress with X fixes the distress. Wait. Oh, actually, yeah, okay. There appears to be some structural brain differences, but it's the kind of thing you can only measure. Oh, posthumous. Okay. And we just don't have enough data on it. I think Rob used the word, because I mean, we have enough data and like men and women to just see if there's like a difference. It's really looking at trans people and seeing if there's a difference in their mind. So somebody born a man that's like a trans woman, is there a difference in their brain from like a cis man or a regular man or whatever, right? As an adjective, not the best choice, but he has stated multiple times now that he wasn't calling someone that specifically as a slur. I think that's a fair assessment. Wait, where's Rob? Rob, where you at? Or did you get kicked or something? I don't even see Rob's messages. I don't know problem with words, but calling someone a criminal is different. No, sure. Did you know people who were considered retarded were first in the institutions that sterilized them in the 1950s? That was a different time. Pointy, because of people like you and the stigma that causes and pretty well studied. Why does the trans community have the highest suicide rate in the LGBT? That's hard for me to believe. It's simply because of, because I tried to ask this question. Let me think about this one. Hold up. Or how about this? If the world was perfectly accepting of trans people, do you think they would still have a higher suicide rate than the general population? Also, I mean, I need to look at like just the stats for if they have the ending of oneself. I don't think I'm supposed to say that on YouTube. The ending of oneself for trans people over time, the rates of it. I would anticipate that if society's acceptance of them is the biggest contributor to them ending, that over time, it seems acceptance, at least in the last 20 years, 30 years, has probably grown. So I would assume the ending of oneself has shrunk over time, has gone down, the rate of it. See, I hate, and that's another reason. The fact that you're not allowed to say certain things annoys me because it just gets in the way of my thoughts, because now I have to use euphemistic language to talk around something and beat around the bush instead of just say it. What if there are completely straight in every way relationships between trans people? Oh, maybe we'll get to it today. I'll probably do a poll, see what you guys want to watch. But there's a video on ladyboys in the Philippines, and it's a Tyler Oliveira video. He goes over there, interviews some ladyboys, and kind of gets their takes on dating and being a ladyboy and sort of like how they're perceived in society and stuff. And there's some comparisons to be made about like the trans community and whatnot in the United States. And it was an interesting video. Oh, what was I saying that? Names hurtful. Oh, straight in every way. So one of the people they interviewed was dating or married to a ladyboy, but he says he's, completely straight. So it's just interesting. Exactly, don't attribute to malice what you could to ignorance. Well, Jack, I feel that, and that's sad and stuff, but people also need to be strong enough to hear words that are tough to hear, you know. I've heard a lot of things throughout my life that, you know, weren't the nicest. And I'm not saying, I'm just saying, I hear you, but you can't really put that on everybody else. It's like, oh, this person says retarded, oh, this person ended themselves, that's because that person called them retarded. It's like, well, I think that's a bit, you know, if you can't survive being called retarded, there's probably deeper issues at play. But there's the whole, well, the straw that broke the camel's back. And it's like, well, sure, I get you on that. Which is why when I go out into society, I try to treat everybody with respect and kindness, because we're all going through shit. And you never know when somebody's going to just snap and just kill everybody. So you might as well just be nice, because you don't want to be the one that sets them off, right? You don't want to be that one. Oh yeah, texting, yeah, the context there is tough. Alright, well, I better not hear y'all call people Nazis and PDFs and stuff, because that's rather dehumanizing, I would say. I can't think of a group of people that is hated more than PDFs. What else? Nazis. I mean, can't go around calling people those things. I mean, either. I mean, that could bring hate to somebody and make them want to maybe end themselves, right? Oh my God, slow and low, what's going on? I don't know who's trying to normalize maps, but obviously we really can't be having that. You know, I think those people probably do need help or treatment or something, right? But it definitely, I don't think should be normalized. Or the normalization of it should be careful. Normalize in the sense of get them help and treatment, I think is really the best. Like normalize in the sense of, hey, go to this place and get help, you know? That's a good thing for you to do. Go to this place and get help. Try to encourage people to go and get help, basically. Okay, so you're saying if people don't want to be called Nazis, they can stop spouting Nazi rhetoric. How, pray tell, can I stop being disabled? Well, some people would say just stop being retarded. You see, you can't really have it both ways. Like, you really can't have it both ways, especially when you know that the other person, when they say retarded, does not mean a person with disabilities, right? But it's like, if you can't even say, you know what, you're right, I shouldn't call these people Nazis. Let me attack their points at hand, you know, and let the person listening decide whether or not they think they're a Nazi. But you're like, well, no, they're a Nazi. Well, guess what? Being called a Nazi, man, that could definitely make you feel alienated. right? What if you convince everybody this person's a Nazi? Oh my gosh, now their life goes to shit. Now they want to end themselves. So it's like you're okay with some people wanting to end themselves and not others. And it's like, if you can't have that same sort of empathy for everybody, then I find the whole thing shit. And I'm like, well, then anybody can get it. And if anybody can get it, then yeah, people are fucking retarded. And people are Nazis. And that's just what it is. Well, one is intrinsic if you're talking about people with disabilities. But if you're not talking about people with disabilities, then it is kind of a choice. And slow and low, I think the trick, hopefully, is to catch those people before they offend. The idea is like, hey, you're having these bad thoughts or these thoughts. You haven't acted on them. Let's try not to act on them. Let's try to get you some help so you don't act on them. I think that's really like the best, you know, case scenario. Once they've acted on them, it's kind of like, damn. I mean, now there's a victim, presumably. And yeah, it's just the whole thing's fucked at that point, so. I swear, dude, if Ghislaine gets a fucking pardon, I swear, you know she's not getting one in the next couple of years. It's not going to be until Trump's on his way out. There's no way he pardons her in the next, like, 2 years. It has to be on his way out the door. If he fucking pardons her, I swear, dude, oh my God. That would be his largest L. But no, I hear you, Tilly. I hear you. I understand the distinction that you're making. I just, again, I feel like sometimes we purposely misinterpret people. And is it pedantic when somebody's being pedantic? Like you're basically like splitting hairs on what they're saying, or you're just willfully misunderstanding what they're saying to be upset about. I mean, people talk differently or use different words, even in different generations. Like if you talk to somebody in their 60s or 70s, they might use language that possibly offends you, but it was common or is common amongst them. And as you go down, yeah. So I don't know. I just, it feels like it's just getting upset about nothing. Most people don't use the word in that way. I don't think most people hate disabled people. Like that's the thing. It's like nobody hates disabled people. Nobody's going around saying, oh, we need to get rid of disabled people. If there are, it's like the smallest few. Because when I say there's nobody, obviously when you have like hundreds of millions of people, there's always going to be a dumbass that believes something. I could go outside and say it's a beautiful day. If there's a million people listening to me, somebody's going to say it's a fucking awful day. Okay. But for the most part, I think that disabled people are like protected and people don't treat them badly. And if you're seen treating a disabled person badly, you generally get shit for it. So I just, like, yeah, I feel like if somebody was to call a disabled person retarded, most of the people standing there would look at them and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? Trump this Wednesday is gonna pardon Diddy. Shut the fuck up. That'd be crazy. Oh my God, I knew she would have. He also believes he's a Nazi. Oh my gosh. Oh my God, Ted Ferguson, shut the fuck up. I said Ted. Yo, I haven't seen you here in a while. That's crazy. Kevin, what's wrong? At least you probably agree with at least 50% of the mods. Or 30%, I don't know. We got a few different opinions. You said the word is acceptable. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. If that word offends you to such a degree that, like, you just can't live with yourself or just can't be here, then, I mean, unfortunately, just go. I mean, I don't know what to say. It's just not that deep. Again, if somebody was sitting here saying, oh, yeah, disabled people are this and that, they need to be killed and all that, I'd be like, okay, yeah, we can get rid of that person. But again, I kind of look at trying to understand what a person actually means by their words and not just, oh, this word is there, so we have to freak out and get rid of it. And I just, yeah, no. And guess what? A bunch of people call Trump a PDF. A bunch of people say Trump is this and Trump is that. I don't sit here and get rid of them either. It's like, it really goes for both sides. That's the thing. When people want to get mad that one side is, you know, not being banned for something, it's like, well, I mean, so is the other side. So I said, it's like, come on, like, if you don't like it, then unfortunately, I mean, there's other places. There's places where, you know, they will curtail speech and make it exactly how you want it. And, you know, more power to you. I wish you luck. I wish you love and happiness. Wait, Black Lagoon. I know, like, the teachers from the Black Lagoon. I don't know if you guys get the reference. Anything make for dinner tonight? Dude, I've been having like fish all week. Yeah, some people do think that. Shoot, I get complaints about that in my chat. Like, I'm like, yeah, don't call to violence, don't threaten, you know, people's lives, or, you know, they'll be like, oh, kill Trump or something like that in my chat. So I ban people that are like, oh, you know, kill Elon, kill Trump, whatever it is, right? And people are like, oh, why'd you kick them? Why'd you kick them? And I'm like, well, they're calling for like the death of like people. And it's like, oh, well, what? You feel like you have to protect the billionaires? No, I feel like I'm not gonna have people calling for the death of people in my chat. If that's the kind of thing you'd like to cultivate, I go for it, man. Turn your live on, put yourself on the camera, and build a community that wishes death on people. Good luck with that. But it's just not gonna be here. I don't know, people are a little ridiculous. Yo, FBI, you here? There's like, there's one guy, his name's FBI. He's pretty funny. He likes to sit and creep, and then as I get off, he goes, finally I can go on break. After everything I've said, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be in chat. Please no caps, oh my God. Where's Crystal? Nah, she's busy. Okay, Bourbon, I don't know what you're on. You said you think Luigi did the wrong thing, but you think the jury should nullify because the victim killed a lot of people too? I don't know about that. Because it seems like you're kind of saying like, oh yeah, he did the wrong thing, but he didn't do the wrong thing. He did the wrong thing, but he did it to the right person. It's kind of what that sounds like. I don't know, man. Because if the roles were reversed and it was a Trumper, let's just say, doing it, I feel like people would say, "Oh my gosh, look at them, they're killing people," or I don't know. I think it's really dangerous to have rules for one side, because then the other side's gonna do something stupid, and then people are gonna be upset. It's probably not a good thing to have people running around executing people in the street. You might agree now, but what happens when it happens to somebody you like, or happens to you? All it takes is somebody thinking that you're a bad person and that they should have the right to, you know, be the judge, jury, and executioner. And I just don't really think that's a great way to run society. Yeah, it's working right now. It happened to somebody that you think was a bad person. You've never met them. You don't really know fuck all about anything about them or anything. But they're dead. And that's a good thing? I don't know. Did it make a difference? I don't know. Maybe it did. Yeah. You just gotta be careful with that, because again, if enough people look at you, some people out there might not like you. And I think encouraging people to kill people is just not the way to go. You're not gonna like it when it happens to you.
I saw it when I walked, boy.
Exactly. It seems like the bigger issue is maybe, you know, the laws in place if you want to see things change, because if they're trying to maximize their profits, then they're going to do what they're going to do. So I don't know. I just think we got to be really careful with that kind of stuff. Yeah, they've been arguing about words for like the past hour. I'm not really, I don't know why. A bunch of communists here. Billy Billy, the communist isn't even here. That's the funniest part. Well, I guess Tilly's here, so there we go. I don't know why, Jack, you're going off like this. I don't know what happened. Yeah, it's a weird retaliation method, I must say. Yeah, Joe, you're gonna have to explain that take. I don't know. What do you mean with AI on the horizon? It could be justified. What do you mean? True. I also do have a rule for spam though. So it's like I try to be First Amendment in here, but then if people spam, they get, you know, kicked as well. So Trump sold Bibles for profit. There's no American language, but nice try. Not texting a letter. You guys aren't typing a letter in here. You guys need to treat this like typing a letter. Every message. I want indentation. You have to start it with dear at whoever. Yeah, plus YouTube mods its own stuff. Oh, what's going on? CRXR. He sold Bibles. I've heard the claim. That's kind of funny. I don't know. Selling Bibles for profit in general. I mean, covering costs makes sense. Hey, it costs like $10 to make the Bible. Sell it for $10. I wonder if there's some way. Could you like sell a Bible? Well, how would you? Let me think here. Yeah, you could sell a Bible as a charity, right? And it would be like written off. You wouldn't have to necessarily be taxed on it. Then it goes into the charity's pocket. Then you pay yourself a salary, which of course you'd have to pay taxes on that. Don't insult cucks like that. What? What's going on? Luba Yala Retanarisi. What's going on? Lubanalaba Terasi. I'm gonna call you Luban. Luban, yeah. There we go. What's going on? I want to say Ultra Maga runs this. I can't say that. It's a pretty even mix of people. Otherwise, I'd get bored. And I'd have to switch gears. I'd have to do a full reset. All fresh mods. Kamala 2028. Look, I swear, if the Democrats want to win, I swear, if they run Kamala, do not let them run Kamala, please. Please. They've got to have other people. They need somebody new, somebody fresh, okay? They need a fresh face. Who could be the fresh face? Everyone's favorite governor. I mean, that's the only person that really comes to my mind as well. They could pull somebody. They could pull somebody out of the hat. I feel like they need a surprise person. Somebody that kind of comes out of nowhere and steals the show. Somebody that nobody's anticipating. Knock yourself out with mom. What the fuck? Oh my gosh. Yeah, basically, someone that isn't 80 years old that actually has a policy that benefits the citizens of the United States. That'd be cool. They're like, okay, you don't want them to be 80 years old? We got you, 78. It's like, whoa, they're young. Blitzo! What's going on? How you been? How you been? Life is good. We're just chilling in space. The pendulum be swinging. Well, even if Pat does like cock, it is 2025, so that's okay. You know, we don't judge. At least I don't. I don't really care. You know, what you guys get up to is what you guys get up to. Dude, if retirement age is 68, they shouldn't be allowed to run the country. That's an interesting point. I've not considered that. Sorry, President, we have to retire you. What? Alright. No, we're gonna stick around so long. Mama hop off, get some food, and I'm gonna circle back. Check back in an hour, so I'll probably be on tonight as well. But I just want to get a little short one in before I got to my day, got what I gotta get done in the next few hours, but I'll circle back. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. Double tap. Really appreciate that. Subscribe if you want to come back. Appreciate that. Y'all have been a lot of fun. Round of applause for all that are left. Y'all are honestly the best. The best. One more time.